Hey folks, it's Dr. Sean Baker here. I want to talk a little bit about legumes. Now, legumes are just a fancy name basically for beans. We hear the plant-based people telling us all the time how great they are, how legumes can potentially lower cholesterol, how they're a great source of protein, they're full of fiber, and so on and so forth. But are legumes really that great for us? Well, let's look into that into some detail. Okay, the first claim we're going to sort of debunk here is legumes are a great source of protein. That's actually not very true, depending on how you define great, I suppose. They have about 6 to 8 grams of protein per serving in a normal size cup of beans or something like that. Now, they don't even have all of the essential amino acids that we need. They have some of them, but they don't have them all. And so they're a relatively incomplete source of protein. You have to pair it with something like a grain in order to make a complete protein. And then when you do that, you often will drive the amount of carbohydrates up significantly while you're doing this. Also, these legumes often are paired with or come with anti-nutrients, which further block the absorption of not only the protein, but some of the other components of the diet, things like minerals and so on and so forth. So legumes are not a great source of protein. Something like beef, which has something like 25 grams per serving, is going to be a much better place to get your protein from. Okay, the next falsehood about legumes is they are easier to digest than meats, and that is clearly based on, I think, fantasy world. As we mentioned earlier, legumes, contain a number of chemicals, different phytotoxins in there, which deter predation. Remember, these seeds are baby plants, and the mama plant doesn't want them getting eaten, right? It protects them with chemicals. These chemicals are meant to deter, ingestion by other animals. And in fact, a lot of raw beans are actually so toxic that they can be lethal in a relatively small dose. So we have to do extensive processing in many cases to make them actually edible, as opposed to meat, which contains no phytotoxins. It's basically super easy to digest. It's a complete protein, highly bioavailable. So meat is clearly more digestible, more bioavailable than things like legumes are. Okay, the next sort of falsehood about legumes is they are a really good source of iron. They clearly are not. First of all, they contain a non-heme iron. Now, non-heme iron is contrasted to heme iron, which you find in animal products, particularly things like beef, which is much more bioavailable. It's estimated only around 2 to 20% of non-heme iron is even available for absorption. Okay, so that can be a significant problem. Iron deficiency anemia is one of the most common conditions in the world, and countries that subside on things like beans as a large part of their diet suffer tremendously from iron deficiency anemia. Okay, now we've kind of generally talked about legumes. Let's talk about one specific legume and one particular form of that, and that's peanut butter. Americans eat 700 million pounds of peanut butter every year. That is enough to cover the entire surface of the Grand Canyon with peanut butter. That's an amazing amount of peanut butter we eat there. But is peanut butter even good for you? Let's talk about some claims around peanut butter. Okay, peanut butter is easy to digest. Well, it's creamy. I guess it's creamy and crunchy, right? And that must be easy to digest, particularly the creamy portion. Well, again, that is unfortunately not true. Peanuts, like other legumes, are a legume, and they come with a number of anti-nutrients. They have a lot of phytotoxins in there. They have things like lectins, oxalates, and phytates that can disrupt our gut function, interfere with gut permeability, or increase gut permeability, can lead to issues with digestion, constipation, bloating, inflammation. Peanuts are one of the most common crops to be affected with mold. In so many cases, mold might be an issue with peanut butter. And so when you're eating peanut butter, it's kind of like eating a spoonful of digestive distress, inflammation, and potentially chronic disease. Sounds like there's better ways to get your protein out there, certainly. Okay, the fat found in peanut butter is extremely healthy, correct? No, that's not necessarily correct. Now, again, peanut butter is made out of a base of peanuts, ground up, and some of the oil is a naturally occurring omega-6 oil, which could be problematic for some people. When you concentrate this fat, which is what occurs in the process, it can make that even more problematic. To make things worse, manufacturers often will add partially hydrogenated fats to peanut butter to just increase the yield, cheapen the product basically. Kind of, if you guys don't know, the trick for processed food industry is stretch things out, put cheap ingredients in there, and hopefully no one notices. Anyway, so that will lead to certainly problems. There's often these things are trans fats. The FDA says, trans fats aren't good. The label might say 0, but as long as it's under 0.5 gram per serving, they can get away with saying 0. So, and often, the serving size are often like, 2 molecules. That's your serving size, right? So that can be a real problem. The short answer is, as good as some of you guys find peanut butter to eat, and I know it can be very addictive and people do that, It's not really much of a health food, guys. Okay, third thing about peanut butter is, again, it's a rich source of protein. Again, 4 to 6 grams per serving, coupled with anti-nutrients, phytotoxins, digestive issues. Again, once we're comparing it to a serving size of beef, where you're getting, roughly 5 times as much protein per serving there, without all the added, problems that you get with peanuts and peanut butter. Okay, so there you have it, guys. 6 big lines about legumes, peanuts, and other beans, and why you might avoid them. My suggestion is skip the legumes and just eat some beef, guys. We will talk to you guys soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the notification bell, and share this with somebody you think that might benefit from it. All right, guys, Dr. Baker out. We'll talk to you soon.